Heyo. Hello,
Hi.
everybody.
Go.
Hello, Jack.
It
How are
begins.
you?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm good. It's a lie. I'm terrible and everything's awful. How are you?
Oh, well, let's just not talk about
Hey.
that. Yay.
Yeah.
Well, we are going to start with the age old question that musicians always get when, uh, they're starting something like this. The very first question: how did you get into music and what made you, start this career?
Ah. Um, uh, a mixture of fate, tenacity, and being really annoying. I would say, like a concoction of those things. I kind of when I was a kid, I had the same like dreams of a career as everyone else did, which was like I wanted to do what my mum and dad did, and I also wanted to be a pop star. Like I wanted to be a teacher because my mum was a teacher. I wanted to be a policeman because my dad is a policeman, and I wanted to be a pop star because I was in love with Justin Timberlake. Like, and all of those things are still very true, but I somehow found myself falling into more of something along the lines of the third category. I wouldn't consider myself to be a pop star, but I would absolutely consider myself to be a musician, and I've made a career out of it. I'm able to kind of do the thing I always dreamt I would do when I was like a boy, the thing I was dreaming I would be able to do, which is make music for the rest of my life. That's something I'm well on my way to doing. But it was a mixture of a lot of different things. Opportunities, both opportunities missed and opportunities gained, mixed with my parents' ability to notice in me at an early age that I loved music and was quite naturally. I'm going to do this a lot, by the way. I talk with my hands, so there's a lot of this kind of
Great. We love hands. Love
hand
hands.
talking. But my parents noticed when I was a kid that I was like quite, I would naturally gravitate towards instruments like the guitar or piano or drums or whatever. And they kind of just fueled that. They put me into those, positions and allowed me to kind of explore those, what started out as natural talents, and in the hope that I'd be able to kind of nurture those talents into something more. And they were right to do that, because here I am, 20 years later, still benefiting from the choices that they made for me when I was a child. So yeah, like that, plus a lot of just like good decision making, good instinct making, absolutely horrific mistakes, and a whole bunch of other reasons have led me into being here right now, sitting in front of 113 students who are all also on their way to embarking on similar kinds of careers. Which is a phenomenal privilege for me to be here. So thank you, first of all, for having me. But yeah, that's kind of the long and short of how I arrived at this particular place right now.
Great. Love it. And I think that is a big part of it is like if you do come from a family that they're like, yeah, sure, try that,
Yeah,
go for that lesson, pick that instrument up, it's a huge part of it.
yeah,
One of the questions I tend to get a lot through ICMP students and just in general, like musicians that are kind of starting out, is like, how do you start? Where do you start? So,
no,
what were your kind of first steps as an emerging artist? Like, because I know you kind of do like this in the pathway to it. So
yeah.
you're like, "Ah," and what kind of like what did you start doing? Where did you just put your feet?
To be honest, I stopped looking for the beginning of something, right? So like I feel like a huge like crutch of being a creative or being like an artist of any kind, and trying to embark on turning what starts usually as a hobby or as an interest or as a love, a way to pass the time, to embarking on turning that into something that you then want to do as a career, something you want to help like identify you as a person, but also as a soul, as a whatever. Like it's so it's so intrinsically linked into so many aspects of of your life. But at some point, you kind of feel like, well, there's got to be a start. There's got to be a beginning to all of this. More often than not, you're already on the path. You just don't know it yet. And I find that looking for the start is often where you waste the most amount of time. So like I find myself saying this a lot, which was I've always been like fucked. I was always going to do this. which I'm fucked forever. I'm never going to go and work in an office ever. Not because I want to belittle that choice of a career, simply just because I know that I was always destined to do this. I feel like this was always going to happen. I don't know how or when or why, but I just feel when I look back on the decisions I've made over my life and the things that have happened to me, everything was pointing me towards being a musician or being a songwriter. There are multiple moments when I felt like things were happening. So I was gigging a lot. I gigged a lot when I was at uni. I was at uni for a term and a day, and then I dropped out. But that was another start for me. It was like, okay, I'll start. This is how I begin. I'll go to uni in London because then I'll be in London and I can get a university degree in teaching because that'll be my safety net. And then I can gig while I'm like studying and blah, blah, blah. I did a term and a day and I was like, I'm wasting so much time and energy on a career I know I'm never going to do. And I'm ignoring the thing I do want to do, which is I want to find a way to live in London so that I can pursue a career in music. The minute I took that safety net away was the minute I realized I was already on the path to doing it. I faked myself because I was scared. I was terrified. I faked myself into thinking I needed a definitive starting point. And it was the minute I took the safety net away, things started to fall in place. I met the guy who ended up bringing me into a management situation, and that's what ended up getting me a development deal with Universal, which is what ended up getting me signed to Ireland, which is what ended up getting me signed into Interscope in the US, which is what ended up making my first record, Phase, in 2016. The minute I took the safety net away, the minute I committed myself to understanding I'd already begun, that's when everything started to fall into place for me. I guess.
That's amazing.
Because and loads of hard work, but
yeah, obviously that that goes without saying that you've obviously put in the years of work previous to that, and
exactly, yeah,
you still do that. Like, music is a constant education, so you're still doing it all the time. But I think the amazing thing that you said there was the safety net, because there is this belief with so many of my friends that are artists and musicians are like, oh, but I have to have that other job, and then the minute you walk away from that, it's like my dad said to me once, years and years ago, he said, and I was living in London at a part-time job, and I was gigging nonstop, and I was wrecked all the time, I was broke all the time, and he said to me, Megan, as long as you're a part-time musician, you're a part-time musician, and it just flipped everything on its head for me.
You do need the fear. Yeah. And it's hard to it's hard to argue the case for that when you are in the position of needing both. So like when you do have a part-time job, you need the part-time job because the other thing you do want to do, which is be a musician, isn't paying for the life that you want to live. Because still to this day, we refuse to pay artists for the art that they make. We refuse to pay musicians for the work that they do fairly. And that's what forces people to go through the life that you described, which is you burn the candlestick at both ends, which means you can't. So I don't use the candlestick analogy. Actually, I use well filling. What you do is you end up, you have a well that needs to be at a certain capacity. And at a certain capacity, other people can take from that well, but you can still go to your well and take from it yourself. However, within the music industry and the entertainment industry, we as people who offer ourselves to that industry and whose emotions more often than not get exploited for the benefit of that industry, we are taught to believe that giving that well to other people, allowing people to walk up freely and take from that well, is the normal thing to do. And then we're left empty, and we have to go to that well and take what's ever left to be able to do the gig, to be able to do the session, to be able to write the song. So you end up creatively giving nothing because you have nothing to give. And yet you see people walking up all the time taking from it. Whenever you're able to refill it, other people come and take it first. And I just fucking refuse to do that anymore. Like, I just refuse to do it.
Yeah, but I think that this is a really interesting point to make, because we have a lot of students on here who are, emerging and about to enter that field where they're going to be playing gigs. And like, I played gigs for no money for 5 years.
Yep.
And I reached a point where I said, this is bullshit. I'm never going to do, like,
Yeah.
I will refuse to do anything now that's not going to pay me for my time, because I
And
realize,
the funny thing is as well, is it was bullshit from the first gig you did.
oh yeah, but
Right?
that's why
Yeah.
this is really interesting for all these people coming up, because the dilemma is, and I'm really interested on your point on this,
Mm-hmm.
the dilemma is, you want the experience as a new musician.
Yeah.
So you want to get out there and you want to play gigs for experience. You're new to it. Maybe you haven't played a live gig before. Maybe you're using these as run throughs to get your band going.
Yep.
And so you need the experience. So a part of you is willing to do that for free.
Yeah.
And you know that if you say, hey, I need 100 quid to do this gig or whatever, and they say no, somebody else is going to take it for free.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this. Like, I just think if everybody refused to play for free,
Fucking great, wouldn't it?
it'd be great. It'd be great.
But we know that that's not the case, and what it creates within us is a fear that we're replaceable, because our brain is constantly looking for narrative to make sense of the things that don't make sense. And what doesn't make sense is, well, hang on, if I'm going to turn up to a gig with all of my gear and I'm going to put a show on, I should be compensated for that, at least in some sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
I need to put value on my time and on my talent, and maybe that value equates to a value of money, right? Maybe it equates to something else. Maybe it equates to opportunity, or maybe it does equate for you to be like exposure. This is going to be a good venue for me to go to. Like, it doesn't just have to be pay me for the gig, but it should be respect me for my time. And that's fundamentally the difference, I think, is if you don't want to do a show because you're not going to get from it what you believe you're deserved, just because someone else could do that show instead doesn't mean you're replaceable. It just means that their values are lower than yours, or their value for what they see in themselves is lower than yours. And I believe that value, self-imposed value, like, we are not bread sitting on Tesco's. Someone else doesn't give us our value. We give the value that we deserve to ourselves. And we learn over time if that's inflated or not. Like, we learn over time whether we've inflated our own value and maybe we fed into our ego too much, or if we've undervalued ourselves. And fuck me, I spent years undervaluing myself. And the problem is because that's kind of what we're encouraged to do. Because if we can create great art and do it and give it away for free, that's better for everyone else other than us. And by free, again, I'm not just talking about monetization of that art. I'm talking about the value that you're going to put on it. How much time did you spend recording it and writing it? How much time did you spend rehearsing it with your band to be able to go and do the show? How much petrol did you literally spend to get to the show? Like, all of those costs add up. Costs of your time, of your talent, all of the things that all of the things that take from your well. At some point, you've got to fill that well up. But if you don't even have the energy to do that, then you can't do your job properly. Which is why it's important that people like me and all of us, fucking hell, just say that out loud, because fans don't know this, audiences don't know this, consumers don't know this, because we've kind of not told them, because we want to be seen as untouchable almost. We want to be seen as like mysterious figures of art who create conversations between the human experience and the soulful experience. And as true as that is, we also need fucking food and somewhere to shit, and like, we need human things. And we have to be able to ask for that. We have to be able to ask for the basic amounts of respect. The only way that starts is by putting a value on our own time. Funny story that it's just reminded me of. I had a song of mine called Weathered stolen by an Australian Christian rock band a couple of years ago. They used it on a song that they'd released. They literally just took the opening choir of my song Weathered and wrote a whole other song about Jesus based on it. And someone sent it to me. A fan of mine was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, I love this Australian Christian rock band and I love Jack Garratt, and here they are doing something together. And I went, no. I did not approve this. I would not have approved this. And also, I haven't been paid for it. And we got in touch and they said, well, no, we didn't do that. And I said, yes, you have, because my ears aren't wrong about this kind of stuff. But it's shit like that. Like, that really angered me, because I spent days working on that song. and turning it into something so emotionally powerful and evocative that this band wanted to write something beyond it. Now, if they just asked me, I would have said yes, but they didn't. They stole it from me. They stole that time from me. That's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
That's not right.
No. And again, this comes back to like the value on, you know, just what you were saying. Like, I think it takes time. I think we're so conditioned by, you know, society to, like, in a way, to believe that we're lucky to be able to get up and play music. Oh, sure, you're lucky to have a gig here. You know, people are going to see you.
It's a dream for you.
Yeah. Oh, it was always a dream for me. And, you know, but I've done gigs before in front of, you know, a lot of people where I know there's a lot of money being made, and every single other person there is getting paid. The bartender, the security, the sound engineer.
So they should be.
So they should be.
But that's the thing.
But the artists aren't.
Yeah, exactly. That's where it all gets a little bit fucky. That's where.
Yeah. But I think it's like what you said there is also so necessary to say, and on the platform that you have for people to hear, especially musicians that are up and coming, because like there is going to be a period of time where you don't really know what you're doing, and you know, all of that's going to come. But when you reach that point where you're like, value your own time and what you're putting out there, like, just put your foot down.
Well, and that's the thing as well, as I was going to say, even more so in situations like this, like there's 130 students who are viewing this right now, and hi, every single one of you, thank you so much for tuning in. And I hope that you listen, and I hope that this resonates with you. I'm sure that some of you might disagree with it as well, because naturally you're going to be defensive about something you've been told is not the case for a very long time, or like, because what's the best way to put it? I'm sure every single one of you watching has been told to get a real job at some point. I'm sure that you've had something similar like that said to you. Like, you want to go to uni to study music, you should probably study something proper though. Like, fuck that. You're studying something proper. You're studying what you love. But I wish I'd had someone say this to me when I was 18. I wish I'd had someone say it to me, and I know what my reaction would have been. My reaction would have been fear. 100%. My reaction would have been, that's fucking terrifying. Like, that's what my reaction would have been. It would have scared me. I probably wouldn't have done anything about it for another couple of years. But I wish I had something like that to look back on now as a 29-year-old in the position I am in the industry that I'm in, with a career that I have and that I'm proud of, all the while still being fearful of the future of this industry. I wish I could look back and pinpoint a conversation I had with anyone when I was 18 or 19 where they'd said, put value on yourself first, because that's what people are paying for. That's what you're giving away when you're signing contracts. That's what you're giving away when you're doing shows. The value that you've put on yourself. And also, you're at an age where you are questioning that anyway. Fuck me. When I think about what I was like when I was 18, 19, I hated myself. I mean, I still kind of do. But like, that's all part of the same process of you're at this age, this weird age where you're figuring out your life, and society's telling you to figure it out quickly. And first of all, that's bullshit. Society might need you to figure it out quickly, but it doesn't mean you should figure it out quickly. And then at the same time, you're going, okay, well, I think I know what I want to do, and what I want to do is music. And then society turns around and goes, oh, well, no, but don't do that. Like, fuck it. It's so stupid. Art is important. It's food for the soul. I don't know. Are most of the people here like songwriters, or is it a mixture of like people doing music business? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. But either way, like, you're entering an industry that's sole purpose is to create entertainment. But that entertainment has to come from a just and loving and well-intended place. Right. No, there's people talking. So there's like, we've got producers and engineers, vocalists and songwriters, but it's mostly co-producers, session singers, photography, mate. Right. So it's music business as well. So it's all the same thing. Don't ever forget why you're doing it. Every single person I've worked with, who I love working with in my job, and I have a good team because I've gone in with this intention, is like, I'm not here to work for you. You're not here to work for me. We are here to benefit from each other and create something wonderful, right?
Yes.
Every single time I've met someone in the industry who I feel like is just there to exploit me, I'm done. I'm not there. I've had conversations with those people. I've met those people. I've had fucking like LA meetings. I've been in that room and it sucks. But if you can go into that room and have value on yourself, then at least you can walk out of that room and still have value on yourself. You don't have to hang your soul up at the door. You can walk into that kind of room and stay true to your inherent nature. If your inherent nature is one that respects itself. It's taken me fucking years to learn that. But when I was having meetings with, you know, like Darkus, the CEO of Ireland UK at the time when he signed me there, that's something that was in my head the whole time. The whole time I was in there, I was like, he's going to want to impress me. He's also going to want to overwhelm me with this office and with him as a personality. And I fucking love Darkus. He gave me my career, but I sat in that room and I told him what I wanted from my career, what I wanted from him. Because that's why he asked me into that room. And a lot of people, I think, in this industry will forget to tell you that you're in the room as well. So you have to bring yourself into that room. No one's going to bring you in. No one's going to bring you in for you. I hope that makes sense. I rambled a little bit. I will ramble a lot because I'm passionate. No.
There's actually so many things. There's so many things you just said there that I'm like, oh, I need to remember that because I want to touch on what you just said there.
I'm going to put all of these on t-shirts. Don't worry about it.
But a few things, and by the way, I see all the Q&As coming in, guys, and we are going to get to all of these, by the way. But I want to keep going where we are at the moment because I think I wish I had somebody at 18 as well tell me it was okay to do this for a career, because I went to college for 3 years to study something else that I'm glad I studied, but like I don't do.
Where did you study out of interest?
I studied psychology at UCD, University College Dublin.
Right.
And I was in college 3 weeks and I got a scholarship for singing. And I didn't even know they were giving out those scholarships. And my mom found it and she was like, hey, so I know you're studying psychology, but like you might as well try out for this.
Yeah.
And then I spent way more time singing in college than I did anything else. And that kind of gave me my thing of like, wait, and just like you said, like this makes me really happy. Like, why am I made to believe that I need to get that real job? Because I can make money doing this and I love this. So like, hello. But the things you were saying about being in the rooms where like you know those people are not on your side, and there's also a part of you that wants to go with those people because there's the whole fear around like this could be a missed opportunity, oh my god, I should do this, blah blah blah. But it is knowing like that actually at the end of the day, what you said about when you got your first record deal, like they wanted to sign you because you walked in there knowing exactly who you are and exactly what you want. And you are the product. It's you.
And you need that self-awareness. I was just thinking like you need the self-awareness of knowing that. And you can't belittle the side of the industry that you're actively being a part of. Like I'm happy to call my music a product. Right. And I know that that's like a tarnished word. That's kind of a taboo word for a lot of people who are, who are so intrinsically like tethered to the art that they make. But there is an ultimatum there, which is that if you do want to make money from it, it is essentially a product at some point. And that's not a bad thing to think. That's a helpful thing to know, because it means when you're in those rooms, you can respect what the person is saying to you who's on the other side of the big boardroom table. You know, like when I was in the room with Darkus or when I was in the room with John Janik in Interscope, like I wasn't sitting across the tables from these people thinking of them as an enemy. I was thinking of them as my business partners because that's what they are. They want to make money from me and I want to make money from them. I want to make art with them. They want to make art with me. You can do both of those things. They can work together. You just have to you have to know what you want from that relationship because they know what they want from it. And they have people who know what they want from it. They have lawyers who know what they want from it. They have A&Rs who know. They have a whole company. If you find yourself in this position, it's a whole company that knows what it wants from you. You can't go in there and not know what you want from them. Otherwise, you've lost. You've just lost. Now, it takes a long time to figure that out, but really put that time in and think about what you want from those kinds of relationships. And my only experience is the major label world, and I'm very lucky for that. But it's the same for any part of the music industry. If at any point you're sitting down with someone and you're having a chat, you have to assume that they know what they want from you, and you have to know what you want from them, not for selfish reasons, but for selfless reasons, so that the collaboration can be healthier and easier and more transparent. Yeah. I totally, it's so fucking weird, isn't it? That you don't get this part of the education when you're studying music, when you're studying the music business. You don't get this part of that education. And this is the most fucking important part, I think.
But also, I think that's why, like, I was really fortunate. I moved to Nashville straight after I finished college because I was like, fuck it, I want to learn how to write songs. Wow. I'm going.
Jesus.
And I knew nobody. I actually thought that I could get around on public transport or my feet. And then I arrived and I was like, no. This town is really spread out.
Nashville is huge and run by roads.
Huge. But I got really fortunate there because I had a mentor who I met after 4 days of arriving there, and he was a friend of a friend from home, and he was the only person I knew in that city, but he was co-owner of one of the biggest record labels in America at the time. And he just took me under and was like, here's everything you need to know. And I think that mentorship for young, like, that's why conversations like this are so key, because I think, you know, a course in studying what you're studying, if you're studying songwriting, you're studying songwriting. You're not necessarily having a songwriter sit in front of you all the time saying like, here's what I wish somebody had told me.
Yeah.
So I do think that's why, you know, like them hearing from you is so important. But I have a question here from Joel Reed, which says the best advice on getting signed and getting a manager, etc. And I feel like you just answered a lot of it in saying like bringing what you want to the table, because in this industry you're going to have lots of let's meet for a coffee.
Yeah,
that is they are checking out. Do you know what you want?
Red flag. Huge fucking red flag. No, I'm kidding.
But yeah, I think that's a part of that answer. But is there anything else, like in terms of seeking out that label or a manager, that you would have advice on?
You've got to want to work with these people for a long time. You've got to think about the long game. And that's going to make you make smarter decisions. As long as you don't go into a spiral and start panicking too much about decisions you literally can't affect, like what's going to happen to you in 5 years. You've got to assume that these are people you're going to work with for fucking ever. Until you stop making music, assume that these are the people you're going to work with, because that's going to make you make smart decisions for yourself. It's also going to force you, I mean, for me, it forces me into really considering if these people are going to want to work with me forever. Because that's the investment I want. That's the attitude I want from them. I want these people, I want the people I work with, whether it's my management, whether it's my booking agents, whether it's my label. I want my team to love me and want to work hard with me. You know, because I'm not their boss and they're not my boss, but it's like I said earlier, there is a working together that we have to do. And there are ways of incentivizing that work to be the best kind of work that it can be. And the way that I found, given my kind of natural ability to be quite charismatic and conversational, I find that the best way for me to do that is to just talk my way into people's hearts. Like, I like to talk to people. I like to make people feel wanted and welcome and thanked for the work that they do. I learned this the hard way because I had some really bad anger issues at the beginning of my career. This was because I was being mismanaged. So biggest piece of advice I can give is don't have your friends be your managers. It doesn't work. I don't care if it does work right now. It doesn't work. Don't have your friends being your managers. You need to separate those worlds. It's important to separate those worlds. Your manager can be your friend, but your friend should not be your manager.
Or family, probably.
Or family, especially. I've literally never heard a story where that's been successful.
Me neither.
Heard stories where it's been successful for a certain amount of time and then it's just destroyed both people, like blown up into 1,000 pieces. Yeah. Have a manager that believes in your work, not you, because they will believe in you because you made your work. But it should be work first, music first, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, but so what I was saying is like the thanking your team thing, and just being surrounded by people that you want to be surrounded by, but making sure that those people want to be around you. Like my first couple of years after 2016, when the album came out and my career started to change a lot, I developed some really intense emotional and anger issues because I didn't know how to process what was going on, because I was being mismanaged and I didn't feel confident and safe. And it made me very aware of that feeling very quickly. Having confidence in the team that you have built, or having confidence in the people around you who are making decisions on your behalf, and feeling safe around those people. I did not feel confident or safe, and it meant that my career was damaged because of that. And there were red flags that I purposely avoided because I felt uncomfortable about noticing the red flags, because my manager was my friend and I didn't want to accept the responsibility of having made the bad decision of having this person be my manager. But I paid for it in a different way. I paid for it with my emotional health, with my physical well-being, and my and the years of self-hatred, and now therapy and antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds that I'm on. Not all directly responsible to this one individual who, didn't manage me very well, but it didn't help. And a lot of it for me comes down to just instinctively what is it that I want to do. I trust my gut a lot. I try and make sure that I don't overload my brain with too many decisions a day, because if you think of your brain like a computer, it can only really perform at a certain capacity for a certain amount of time during the day. If you waste your morning, if you spend your morning wasting your decisive making ability on decisions that don't make any sense or don't matter, like what are you going to eat and what are you going to wear, it's going to affect how you're thinking and making decisions later on in the day when you're working at like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. That's why I don't think about what I'm going to wear. I put on the first item of clothing that I either see or think about. And I don't think about what I'm going to eat. I just think about whatever it is that's in my mind. That's what I'm going to have for breakfast. Small decisions like that help me make better decisions later on in the day. All of those things combined mean that my instinctive ability is more powerful and more quickly directs me to a better decision. I don't have to overthink my decisions as much because I'm training myself to be more instinctive. And that helps me choose people I want to work with, because if someone walks up to me and I've got the totally wrong energy from them, I will back the fuck off and go somewhere else. And I can't tell you how many times I've done that and been proven right that was the right thing to do.
I read a very interesting quote recently that said, don't change your energy to match other people, maintain your energy and see what you attract. And it blew my mind. I was like, wild. That's fucking amazing.
Yeah. Well, because fucking songwriters, your job is to wear your heart on your sleeve and be empathetic and change your fucking opinion about something depending on who you're writing with or where you're singing your song. Like, you're supposed to be chameleons. I'm a fucking chameleon. If you've seen my live show, if you've heard my music, I refuse to stick to just one instrument or one genre. Like, I'm a chameleon by trade. Makes it so fucking exhausting when you're then surrounded by people who you're trying to impress. And that's a big part of the job at the beginning of your careers. You have to impress the people you're at these parties with, or you're in these meetings with, or you're having these coffees with. Just don't forget that they need to impress you. And if they don't, fuck them. Duh. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. You just don't need to waste your time chasing something. If that one opportunity has come and it's not the right one, you have to trust that another opportunity will come after it. You know? Yeah. It's going fishing. There's not just one fish there. There's loads.
I'm going to jump into two questions here that I feel like relate to what we've just talked about.
Let's go.
The first one, and I've loads to get through. I also want to ask Lassie, who's in the background there. I know I have questions from ICMP, but is it more important for me to get through the questions from ICMP or the questions from the students? If you can just let me know.
Student questions.
Okay, great. That's what I was going for. Okay, so you were talking there about like decision fatigue and, you know, your brain like wasting time on kind of decisions that are fucking whatever. So there's a question here from one of the students saying, what's your number one tip to defeat procrastination?
Oh, accept it.
Hmm.
Get procrastinated. If you are someone who
Okay.
procrastinates, your brain is trying to help you make a good decision. Like if you aren't feeling the moment of finishing writing a song, finishing a production or whatever, fucking stop. Take a break. Go outside. Do something else. Watch a cartoon. Go and get a coffee. Fucking eat food. Play with your dog or whatever. If your body is telling you to stop, then stop. And stop for as long as you need to. Like, I can't stress that enough. There are songs of mine that I start that I haven't finished. There are songs on Love, Death, and Dancing that I started when I was writing Face, which I started writing in 2014, 2015. So that's 5-6 years ago. And those songs I started, I couldn't finish them. So they just sat dormant in the back of my brain and they fermented and they grew. And then when I started writing Love, Death, and Dancing, they just shot straight here. And I was singing these melodies that I hadn't heard in years, and half of them ended up on the album. And I wasn't procrastinating that. I just had to stop because the song didn't want me to finish it. The idea didn't want to be finished. Not yet.
And I think actually that is more important than ever with what we're going through right now to realize, because we're having like, I found myself the first lockdown being like, gonna write a song every day, and then being like annoyed. Yeah, no, you're not. And then like being annoyed with yourself. So I think that's really important. That's a really good answer. I love that. And also another question here from one of the students. It's anonymous, so I don't have the name. Have you felt, because this relays back to what you said in the beginning, where you had that initial success and you had bad relationships, and so that kind of affected you emotionally. So have you felt supported from within the industry, from labels and management, etc., with regards to mental health?
Incredibly. I don't think that the music industry is built yet to actually properly support it, but by the individuals that I work with, yes. The industry as a whole isn't ready yet to accept the fact that it is responsible for the decaying mental health of its artists, right? It doesn't have any system set in place. It does everything it can to strip artists of their rights. There's no union for musicians other than the musicians union. And how can a union that deals with maintaining the rights of violin session musicians also deal with maintaining the rights of me, a signed singer-songwriter? That's ridiculous. You would not have a union that takes care of till workers and truck drivers for Tesco's or whatever. You just wouldn't have that. It doesn't make any sense. And yet that's what we have for the music industry. It tells you a lot about how they just fucking collect us all together rather than actually dealing with us as individuals. So I got like a whole fucking fanciful plan about creating more unions within the music industry. Like there should be a major label specific union for artists signed to major record labels, and that should be different to the union that's designed for artists who are signed independently. Because there's no way that we should be benefiting from the same certain kinds of things when we don't even work in the same part of the industry. Blah blah blah. Anyway,
comes back to the people that you chose to surround yourself.
That's exactly why that decision is so important. I have no issue whatsoever with talking to my management about my mental health. I have no issue with it. That's also down to a lot of the hard work that I've done on myself in accepting my mental health. And I see a therapist and I'm taking meds. I'm doing a lot of the work that's necessary to have my mental health be as stable and as strong as possible, all the while acknowledging and knowing that my mental health isn't great and I have to maintain it. And that I may have to forever, and that my industry wants to exploit that. Not in a malicious way. It just inherently is built to exploit my mental health. So I have to protect it. And I do that by having a good team who understand the importance of that.
Yeah.
Of like maintaining good mental health. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Another question here, another anonymous one.
Ooh.
How have the multiple lockdowns treated you both?
I'll take this one.
Do we want to answer this?
Run off to Ireland.
No, I moved to Ireland a year before COVID.
So what did you know that we didn't?
I forgot to tell you, I'm not just a songwriter. I'm actually a fortune teller.
I knew it. That's why they say don't trust the Irish. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Um, I have found the lockdowns both good and bad.
Yeah.
I think, how do we answer this? Personally, professionally, creatively, all three?
I think so. There's something that I've noticed that exists that kind of crosses over all three of them, which is nothing has exposed me to more toxic positivity than this, both in my personal life, in my professional life, whatever. I've seen so many examples of like toxic positivity. Like, don't be so down. Like, there's so many good things to think. No, there fucking isn't. Fuck you. Just go fuck yourself. No, there isn't. And that's fine. Oh my God, can we not just accept the fact that not a lot of great things happened last year?
Yeah.
That's totally fine to just sit and stew in the emotional turmoil of a globally defining period of time. Can we not sing Imagine to our fucking phones and pretend like that's going to do something? Can we just sit in the shit of it and come into some sort of togetherness from that? Like, that's the world I want to live in. But yeah. But the amount, but when I talk about that shit, I always get people who are just like, oh, it's fucking so negative. It's like, it's not negativity. You're just conditioned to think it's negativity. It isn't. This is hopefulness. This is realistic opportunism. No, optimism, sorry. Realistic optimism. The situation right now isn't great. Let's stop pretending like it is. It isn't. Let's fucking hold people accountable. Let's talk to people suffering. Let's try and do something about it. Fuck me. Woof!
But also, like, not making people feel fucking guilty because they didn't learn a new instrument or a new language, or like,
anyone who says they did anything during the lockdown didn't, and they're lying.
You definitely didn't. No, like, so I went through an awful lot of changes in my personal life, which made 2020 not just a shit year, like, for, you know, the whole world being shut down, but a really shit year for me personally.
Same.
And I was really used to, before last year, just always being distracted.
Yeah.
There was always a gig, there was always a session, there was all like, and I, especially because I was in London for yeah, exactly. I'm actually not listening to you right now. And I was always like traveling before, like, for, you know, I'd be up, I'd be gone, I'd be on a flight, and if something shit was happening at home, I could leave it at home.
Yeah.
Last year was the first year I was like, oh God, I actually just have to be here and be in this.
Yeah.
And in a way, I think that was really healthy.
Yeah.
Kind of over it now, but, you know.
Yeah, kind of done.
That was good.
Kind of looking for the distractions now. No, I get it. I totally get that. I was kind of faced with a similar thing a few months ago, just kind of being faced with immediate reality. Like, because the pandemic was that enough, like, just being stuck inside. But like I can't even begin to think about what students are going through right now. Like, I talk to my management so much about if there's anything that we can do in terms of offering just like entertainment. But to be honest, like, entertainment does nothing when what students need right now is money and education. Like, I feel so fucking sorry for you guys. Like, to have, especially for those of you who are like first years, or now I guess second years, because it's been that long. But like, I feel so fucking much for you, because you're being left behind in a way that's in a way that's what's the word I'm looking for? Like, unfixable. In a way that you shouldn't be, in a way that you don't deserve to be. That's the other thing as well, is you've not asked for this and you're being ignored. Like, I don't know, for those of you who would have just joined this year, or for anyone who's watching who is first year, who would have just kind of joined now, like, you've just gone through the process of being told your entire school life that your GCSEs or your A levels are so fucking important. And then, like, that, you were told actually they don't. All of that work, all of that stress, all of that pressure that you felt about having to study to get into the college or to get into the uni that you wanted to get into, all of that overnight, you were told, actually, that none of that matters. Here's a grade that we think that you deserve. Well, then what was the fucking point?
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler alert, there was never a fucking point. That's the thing, is it's like the point was never there. It's just something that's conditioning you to getting into a workforce that you're not even a part of because you're going to be a fucking musician instead. Oh my God, everything's so fucked. Fuck it. Oh,
it's just structural shite.
No, but it is, like, absolutely. And that's why it's so important to expose it as that and to talk about it like that. Like me too, I get very aware of the fact that sometimes I get called a hypocrite because I am engaging within an industry that I'm criticizing, but that's the whole fucking point. Like if I'm going to be in an industry, which I am in, and I'm so fucking happy to be a part of it. Like I chose to, well, I didn't really choose to, that's a whole other story, but like I'm in a major label industry, right? I'm in the fucking, like the big leagues. I'm signed to Universal Music Group. I have shook Lucian Granger's hand. He wouldn't have a fucking clue who I am, but I've done it. But like I'm signed to Universal. I am more than happy to call them out on shit that I don't agree with. I have to have my music on Spotify. I will absolutely call them out on the way that they disproportionately pay the artists who create the whole reason why the platform is there. Like, of course, and I should.
About that too.
I'm sure that we do because I've been talking about it quite a lot. But like, I should be doing this. I'd be a hypocrite if I was a part of this industry, had all these thoughts, and didn't say anything about it. You've got to have conviction. You got to know what you want to bring to the table, and then you've got to fucking bring it to the table. Oh, I'm feeling energized tonight.
Yes. Okay. We have a question here from Louisa Rowley.
Oh, God. Oh, no. I don't know who that is. I'm joking.
She said when we were talking just there, she said she is a first year and she joined in September, so she can feel the pain of everything you were just talking about.
She's literally just gone through 2 years of studying for an A-level that she then never got to sit an exam for and had a teacher give her a grade instead.
Madness.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Her question is, any advice on how to become a professional musician in the current pandemic?
No. Because I barely know how to be a professional musician in the current pandemic. The situations are still the same. What the pandemic has done is it's exposed a lot of the issues within the industry, but those issues are still there and they have been. So whether you went to uni 5 years ago and were coming out 3 years ago or whatever, sorry, I don't know why that distracted me. I just saw in the chat someone said, invest in a home studio and make music, then promote it. Because I'd even disagree with that. I don't even think that's necessarily the smartest thing to do. Because it ignores the problems rather than actually tackling them and dealing with them and exposing them or talking about them or engaging in them and trying to make them better. It forces you to do everything by yourself. And I've spent an entire career doing everything by myself and I fucking hate it. It's painting me in a corner rather than create opportunities for me. So I'm not necessarily sure that is actually the smartest thing to do. But I totally understand the reason why you would think that. But that kind of proves my point. That's what I thought before any of this happened. And I'm not sure if that was the right thing to do 5 years ago, let alone if it's the right thing to do now. I don't really have any advice. I also don't know if I would listen to my advice if I gave it, because I released an album this year and it was borderline impossible. It was really weird. An amazing thing to do. And I'm so proud of that work and I'm so proud of that record. But it was crazy. Like I'm still processing it, still figuring it out, what happened and what it meant and all that kind of stuff. I don't know, other than just to keep doing what you're doing and trust yourself. The only advice I guess I could give is don't think this is going to be over soon. Yeah. Because even if it is, it's not for you. The music industry has been targeted unnecessarily and hit harder than most industries, especially harder than most industries that generate billions for the economy like ours does. This will last longer for you than it will other people. So don't be afraid of that, but prepare for that.
My take on just what I have felt personally in this time with that question would be like, actually just take the time to, like the things we were talking about at the start, like figure out who you are, figure out what kind of music you want to make, like I have this is the kettle calling the pot black because I have no patience. I am the most impatient person you'll ever meet.
Sure.
But like having patience through this time to like just work on music, but you don't have to release, you don't have to like, you know. Anyway, yeah. Next question, because we did touch on this very slightly, from Alex Hopkins. What's your opinion on how streaming services treat musicians? Where to start?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I mean, what this year has done is it's skyrocketed us into a future that was always inevitable, but one that we aren't prepared for yet, which is streaming. Like, streaming is here to stay. Streaming's here forever now. That's it. But it's not a system that's been designed with artists in mind, and it's not a system that's designed to have artists in it forever. Already, I heard a really funny fact, or fucking terrifying fact. If you listen to any of the like if we're talking about Spotify, for example, just to use them as an example, as they so often usually are used as, if you listen to a Spotify playlist of music that's been curated by Spotify, there will be, and this is true, this is not a rumor, this is 100% factual. In playlists that are curated by Spotify, there will be AI produced music. That exists. That's happening. And people are listening to it and they don't know the difference. So if you're listening to like an instrumental, like fucking like I don't know who's a good example, or like Chainsmokers kind of song, where it's easy enough to listen to and it doesn't really have vocals on it. It just kind of hits a certain amount of boxes to tick, and it's algorithmically produced anyway, even if humans are making it. There is a likelihood that the song you're listening to is in fact actually not been made by a human at any point and has been made by AI instead. So that exists, which to me kind of proves the point that those platforms aren't designed for humans to curate and create art onto. It's not sustainable for us to be there and for artists to be there. It's not financially sustainable. It doesn't benefit us as much as it could do if the system was built at a time when artists had more power, but they were built at a time when artists had no power whatsoever. My brother and I talk about this a lot because he loves music and he believes in the same case that I do, but we've had to argue other white men before who disagree. You know, my brother went to Oxford, and so he knows a lot of people who like to say things. And I've had conversations with those people before, and it sucks because you have to convince these people that the emotional thing is what people are trying to buy into, that the emotion of a song is what people are buying into. And yet now we're living in a time when that's no longer the case because some songs are being made by AI. So it throws it into a bit of a loop. Look, it's such a complicated and confusing system, because all that had to happen when Spotify came around, when the first streaming sites came around, all they had to do was offer all the music in the world for a little bit more than free, because all the music in the world was available to anyone for free by illegal downloads on LimeWire or wherever, right? So all that these people had to do is they just had to come along and go, well, hang on, we could just host all of the music on this one system and charge people a little bit more than free. And every record label went, yes, please, because we aren't making any money. Not our artists aren't making any money. We as record labels, we're not making any money. So they sold us all out for $9.99 a month. And after 15 years of those companies existing, that price hasn't gone up. You're still paying $9.99 a month for all the music in the world. And that's what you were paying when it started. None of it makes sense. It doesn't make sense. It's not a system that is supposed to make sense. It's a system that's supposed to make money for the system, not necessarily for the people putting music on it. And even now they're trying to replace us with computers anyway. So it's not really a very hopeful opinion that I have, but this is why supporting musicians and supporting artists is so important right now. I've been going on a bloody rant about it the last few days on my Instagram. And talking about it is important. People don't know that this is what's happening because it's being hidden from them, because if they knew, they'd probably disagree with it. So they don't know. so that they keep subscribing to music. This is the other thing to think about as well. Like, I fucking use Spotify. I use it, and I've got my subscription that I pay for. But oh shit, what was I going to say? I got distracted. My brain's going off in 1,000 different directions. Sorry. Oh yeah, but I don't own any of the music that I'm subscribing to. It's a subscription service. You know, like the minute I stop spending $9.99 a month, I don't get any of that music anymore. I'm no longer paying for it. Mm-hmm. I will only have the music that I've bought myself. So I make sure I buy the music that I love, and I make sure I support the artist that I love. And at the same time, I as a consumer, pay my subscription so that I can enjoy more music than that. But if you love an artist, then make sure you're supporting that artist as well. And again, like I was saying earlier, it doesn't just have to be a monetary support. That's fucking great. But supports can just be engagement on social media. Like that shit is gold. Yeah. If you follow an artist on Instagram, fucking just like their posts. Because it helps. That shit helps. People don't know how much it helps, but it does. And I'm not going to beg people to do it because I've got, I don't know, self-care. I would beg. I have no value whatsoever. No, but like, it's just such a, like, engagement with people online is important because that's going to boost people's social media presence. It's blah, 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 blah. This is all stuff I'm sure you're learning about. I'm talking to you as if you're fans. You're not. You're musicians. You're about to embark into this world. You probably already have done. You're all on social media. You're all promoting yourself and pushing your music and putting it out there. You're not influencers. Don't let anyone ever tell you that or make you think that that's what you should be. The amount of people I've had talking to me saying I should just go on Twitch. It's like, I'm not a fucking streamer. I'm a musician. Stop giving me other job descriptions just because the job description I have is one that you no longer think is feasible. I'm telling you it's feasible. You just have to pay for it.
And also in general, don't want to feel like you, like, I don't like fucking TikTok. I don't understand it. I've been on it like 3 times and I'm like, what is happening? Everyone is dancing at me. And then my sisters. Also,
it's a data mining app that's thinly veiled as a social media app. Like, it's not good. TikTok, like, I'm not on TikTok not because I disagree with social media. I'm on fucking Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and they mine all my data as well. But for the first time, there's a social media that I have the choice to decide whether I want to give it my data or not, and I've chosen not to. I did just see someone in the chat say, what about Bandcamp? Bandcamp's a really good place to go if you own your music. If you own your music, put it on Bandcamp. That's a fucking brilliant place to go. I love that website. They do so much for independent musicians. Like they work so hard at creating all of the opportunities that they can for independent musicians, people who own the rights to their own music, to go on there and do that. I can't because I'm signed to a major record label. So I don't have my stuff on Bandcamp. And even if I did, I wouldn't make any more money from that. That money would still go to the record label who gave me a bunch of money to make my record in the first place. That's my deal. That's what I deal with. But Bandcamp's fucking great. But that's the same reason as well why, like, when I complain about Spotify and people say, well, why don't you take your music off it then? Well, because I don't own the rights to my music. That's not my decision. My decision is not to have it there or not. If I have it there, I have to have it everywhere. I've made the music and Universal distribute it. That's the sign. That's the contract I signed.
Whereas I come from the other place of being an independent artist, unsigned, and I own all of my music, but I still have it on Spotify. Because...
And so... Because that's what...
Now, like, I will make... Yeah, exactly. That's where, you know, it's reaching a large fan base, blah, blah, blah. But, like, I will tell you that, you know, from my situation where I don't have the label structure behind me, where I make the most money is when I go on tour. Yes. And touring in general, ticket sales and blah, blah, blah. Yep. But selling merch at a gig. People still buy merch.
Yeah.
So, like, don't be afraid, like, of printing CDs.
No,
as well,
of course not.
When this is all over.
Well, yeah, exactly. But also just like, or like taking fucking downloadable links with you and charging people for them. Like, absolutely. That's the goal. That's it. And that's why this year has been so hard, is because that's just dried up entirely. I'm very aware as well that I'm sounding very doom and gloomy, but so I want to just finish that point by saying this, that like, The reason why I refuse to abandon any of those platforms is because that would be giving up. I'm not here to give up. I'm here to make the change that I want to see in an industry that I love. And that's a really important part of it for me. Like I won't run away from these streaming platforms because that's where my audience is. A huge part of my audience is there. So I'm going to charge in harder and further and go a bit deeper and tell people what's going on and fucking say that if you're going to stream my album, buy it as well. And that's what you should do as well. If you end up signing to record labels who distribute your music for you, like, don't be afraid to continue to say what you want. You haven't signed a piece of paper that silences you. So don't be silent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so 2 questions here that are quite similar to each other and relate to what we've just been talking about.
Yes.
One from Lauren St. James that says, I hear that artists signed to major labels rarely make much money because it all gets taken by the record labels. Did this happen to you or did you demand more? And the second question, again, relates to the same thing by somebody anonymous. What benefits of signing to an established label justifies their cut of rights and revenue and their say on your release strategy?
So I mean, I won't go into huge detail about my deal with Island, but what I will say is this: it's not great. The deal I have with Universal isn't fantastic because I was young, I was at the beginning of my career, and it was what I could get. But to say it like that insinuates that therefore I'm making like no money at all. Like that's not the case. I make the living that I want to make and I live within my means. But yeah, Universal take a cut from all the money I make. Essentially, they take something from all the money I make because they fund the things that I make. They give, they don't give me money, but we work together and we take from their huge pot of money and they allocate some of it to my project. And that goes into making my album, or my products and my music, which includes studio time, includes cost of mixing and engineering and mastering and co-productions if there are any. And also then the distribution of that record. So the physical cost that it takes to produce X amount of units of that record, whether it be on vinyl, CD, cassette, and the art that goes around that, bringing in graphic designers to make the record. And then having those.
Pricey.
Yeah, and it's pricey. It costs a lot of money, which is why if you're ever being given a high product item for free, you should question where it's come from. I fucking not to use him as an example or throw him under the bus or anything because I love him, but like Chance the Rapper releasing 3 mixtapes for free at the quality that he was releasing them at, they weren't free. He didn't make them for free. They cost a lot of money to make. It's just fans didn't have to pay for them. But that money had to come from somewhere. The money has to come from somewhere. Especially if we live in the world that we live in, where money can be used for goods and services. But anyway, that's a bit of a tangent. But the thing for me was, I signed to Island after a channel of events that kind of led me to that place. I got signed by a management company that I was kind of talking about earlier in 2015. They had a deal with Universal, which meant that the artists that they signed would get development deals. So I had a development deal with a upstream choice to Universal, essentially is what happened. So essentially what that meant was Universal were putting money into this company to scout and grow talent. And they found me and they gave me a development deal, which meant I didn't have to have another job. I was getting paid I can't remember, like 1,000 or 1,500 something a month or every couple of months. And that paid for my rent, paid for my food. It was fucking amazing. All I had to do was just write songs for about a year. And then Darkus at Island sent a company-wide message to the whole of Universal saying, no one's allowed to sign Jack because Island are going to sign him instead. So I never really had a choice. I went to Island and that's where I've been up until this point. And I fucking love him. It was the right thing for me. And it's given me a career that I'm really proud of. And it's given me a career that I have wanted up until right now. It's all about individual taste. It's all about what you want from your career. I don't think I'm going to be signed to a major record label for my entire career. So I will go independent at some point. I hope I can go independent at some point. That would be amazing. But at the time, it wasn't feasible for me to go independent. I couldn't afford to. And the career that I wanted meant that I wanted to get signed by a record label. Just so happened that one of the record labels that was interested was a major record label, and it allowed me to be able to embark on a career that I can now be fucking proud of. And that's what pushed me into the running for things like the Critics' Choice Award and the BBC Sound Poll and being able to tour. Like, that's the other thing as well. Universal fronted all of the money for the first few tours that I did. Those are tours that I did in Australia and Japan, and I got to go to America like 3 or 4 times over 2 years. That's shit that would have never happened to me if I wasn't signed to a major record label, simply just because I wouldn't have been able to have afforded it myself. There's other ways of doing it. That's not the only way to do it. That was the way that I did it.
Yeah, but I think a lot of...
Sorry, I kind of feel like I fumbled the ball on that one a little bit, but I hope...
No, that's perfect. I think a lot of people like make or hear horror stories and like come to the conclusion that record labels, especially major labels, are the devil. And they're not the devil. Like, they have, there's a lot of great ways to look. Like you just said, it depends what you want from your career. Like, major labels can give, yes, of course they take a cut, but they front, everything, and they get you in front of those people and they get you on those tours, and all of that comes back around.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the point, is it's not supposed to just take from you. It is supposed to be cyclical. It's supposed to feed money back into you. Like, once I've repaid my advance, once I've made that money back, I start making more money off of my records. Like, I don't take the money for free. Future me is paying for it. And now I'm future me, so I'm paying. Yeah. Like, that's how that system works. Really sorry to go on a bit of a tangent. I've seen people in the chat are talking about Jack Stratton from Wolfpack's Silent album that Wolfpack put up on Spotify years ago to expose.
Oh, yeah.
So the reason why that's not on Spotify anymore is because Spotify took it down. Spotify now have a bunch of rules in place because of this album. So for anyone who doesn't know what this is, so Jack Stratton, who's a musician from LA, he has a band called Wolfpack. Wolfpack made a silent album, and they encouraged their fans to play this silent album on repeat to generate money, because they owned all of the rights to their own music, to generate enough money to go on tour. Spotify ended up taking this album down. It was called Sleepify, but they ended up taking it down because it was like flagrantly in disregard of the rules of Spotify that they then decided to make up so that they had something to talk about. But so now stream counts, right, won't get counted if you listen to an album on like lower than 10% volume. So you have to have the volume of a song up a certain amount for the stream number to actually be counted. Like, that's a rule that Spotify has put in place to stop people from doing stuff like this, because they know that their system is flawed, because they know that they're not paying people enough. It's the same reason why when they put that tip jar up, they were like, them putting that tip jar up is them totally admitting to the fact that they know they don't pay people enough. So they offered a tip jar instead, but then they also offered a little guilt trip and allowed people to choose to send that money to charity instead. It's fucked. They know it's fucked. They know it's immoral. They just have to do the bare minimum so that fans still buy their product.
Fuck us.
Anyway.
Okay, another question here. How did your co-writing benefit your career? Did you start out writing on your own?
Yes, I hate co-writes. I think they bring out mediocrity in people. That's my answer. No, I write. Yeah, I write a lot myself because I find it really hard to write with other people. I find it really hard to share my ideas with other people because I get like unnecessarily and unhelpfully self-deprecating when I'm in rooms with other people. So when I do co-write, I write with my friends. I write with people I know I can trust. I write with people whose music I really respect, who I think I'm going to be able to create something brilliant with. But I have noticed, especially with not so much co-writes, but more like collaborations, I find that they bring out the mediocrity in each partner rather than actually just writing a good song. Like, I am such a huge fan of Justin Timberlake and Chris Stapleton. That song that they released together was dog shit.
I agree.
And it shouldn't have been. It should have been fucking sick, but collaborations force mediocrity out of people because you no longer have the fear, which I think is important.
See, I would come from a completely different angle on this than you, because I do a lot of both.
Of co-writes.
So like
I'm terrified of them.
You what? Sorry?
I said I'm also terrified of them. So my opinion will be, well, how do I defend my opinion? Because I'm scared of them.
Yeah, I come from a point of like, with like, I'm about to release my 4th release in March.
Yeah.
And they're always kind of half and half, like ones that I've written by myself and ones that I've co-written. I feel like for me, co-writing, and this might be because you and I are very different in the sense that you like do a lot of your own production and you're obviously really proficient in that, whereas I can't do shit in terms of production. I like can do really basic demos, but when I'm like, I need a fucking drum loop, and it just sounds like something shit from the, I don't know, 1800s, before drum loops even existed. So I love collaborating with people who can give me, like, I love being the top liner, which is like all the vocal melodies and the lyrics, and then collaborating with somebody who does the track. I love that. And it brings out something totally different in me. Yeah. So I think it's about, but then I have friends who are like ridiculous songwriters, and again, like, would be in a similar situation with you, would be like, nah, just co-writing's not for me.
Yeah. Which I think you're absolutely right. I'm being unnecessarily rude for the sake of it, rather than because I actually believe in what I'm saying. But because I have co-written on the album I just put out on Love, Death and Dancing. I wrote all of the lyrics with Henry Brill, who is one of my best friends in the world and conveniently the greatest living lyricist. He's insane. He's unbelievably good at writing lyrics, and we've written some incredible songs together, like genuinely incredible songs together. I think the difference for me then is like co-writes I get on board with. It's collaborations that I think that make me feel a bit like so I can get that. But I think as well, like, I'm a sponge. So I did a lot of songwriting. I did a lot of co-writes early in my career because I was just soaking up information and soaking up other people's ways of writing and blah, 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 blah. And that was really helpful because it taught me a lot about what I knew I didn't like, as opposed to like what I do like about co-writes. It told me a lot about what I don't like about writing music and what I do like about writing music. And it just so happens that up until this point, I enjoy it more when I'm on my own. I get to push myself a little harder. I get to do different stuff. I get to do weirder stuff when I'm on my own, I think. But that's me. That's my hang up. It's because I refuse to allow myself to let my guard down when I'm with other people. That they won't like me.
I feel like Lassie's got something he needs to tell us here. Do you?
Yeah, it's basically just that we've kind of come to an end of this.
No, I've so many questions left.
Wait, quick speed round.
Really? How much time do we have for a quick, like,
can we do a speed round? I'll do.
Let's do a quick fire. Let's do
quick fire. All right, go.
What do you think? This question's from Annie. What do you think is the best song you've ever written?
She Will Lay My Body on the Stone, which was an acoustic song I put out with me and piano. It's got the lyric, and when she moves, it's like the sun is in my eyes. I only want to look upon her beauty, but I'm blinded by her light. Her radiance gone to waste on me. And I think that's the greatest lyric I've ever written in my entire life.
Wow. Okay. Eddie, what advice do you have for artists who feel like the clock is ticking, especially us in our late 20s who still want a career in music? I feel like I'm finally coming into my own, but I wonder if it's too late for me. I know what my answer to this is going to be, Eddie. What's yours, Jack? Yeah,
you just said it yourself. You're coming into your own. Fuck how old you are. That literally doesn't matter. Anyone who tells you it doesn't matter is one of those people I was saying. You just tell them to fuck off.
Love it. Okay, Alex. Hi guys, I have a couple of questions. Okay, one. Have you ever experienced a creative block, and if so, how do you get through it?
Yes, my creative block lasted years. That's why it took like 4 years to write one album and then another one. I did not get over it. I'm still in it. I've just found ways to write within it. I think I accepted it. It's the same with procrastination. It was happening to me. I was fighting it. That was making it worse. I accepted it. It started to get better.
Love it. We already kind of answered his second question, so we won't do that. Okay, Isabella. Like Megan said, it can be annoying and tiring to try and write every day. However, should we try to work on our music or musical education every day, even for an hour a day?
Yes, I totally agree with that if your body is asking you to do it. And there's so many different aspects to your musical education. It could just be listening to something you've not heard before. It could be expanding your listening experience. It could be, I tell you what I did recently that was fucking wicked. I listened to some Steve Reich and I tried to follow the score of it. And it was wicked because I haven't looked at a score in years, and it forced me to be analytical. It forced me to use my musical analytical mind rather than my creative analytical. Forced me to look at harmony and melody and actually consider what the music that I was listening to was doing to me. Other days I'd watch a film and the music in that is enough to kind of inspire me or make me think. Like, your music education is constantly growing if you are choosing to learn. If you're just engaging in the same media and the same music over and over again, you won't learn anything. Not until you've gone somewhere else, and then you can come back. I've learned more from Stevie Wonder in the last year because I've gone away to other places and come back and gone, oh my God, he did all this as well. Go listen to Ahmed Jamal, go listen to Count Basie, go and listen to, there's so many people, whatever, just listen to music.
Okay, Lassie, how many more do we have?
Let's make 2 more. And
keep going, don't stop, 10 more.
Okay. Okay, Louisa, again, best way to make contact with A&R people at record labels?
I mean, I don't know. I got scouted. I don't have it. I honestly don't have any advice for that. I got scouted. Get management first.
Okay, my advice on that front, because I'm there, is get management, because none of them want to touch you until you have a manager they can trust.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure your manager is somebody the labels are also going to want to work with, and be like, no cold emails, like get an introduction through a network. Yeah. They're just, yeah. Okay. Shah sent a message in here saying, hi, I feel disjointed and disillusioned from my home country. I feel like I need to connect with people and make more of an effort with the people where I'm from, for the fear of turning my back on my home country. Whoa. Do you have any advice for me? Thanks for doing this, you two.
I don't know. Where are you from? I guess would be my first question.
From the Philippines, I can.
From the Philippines. Jesus Christ. That's wow. I would say the only kind of answer I feel like I give to that is you can only offer yourself if you know who you are. Right? You can only like fairly and appropriately and honestly and earnestly offer yourself if you have a good understanding of who you are. Start there. It's like the energy thing you were talking about earlier. Right, Megan? Like maintain
your energy and see who aligns with your own energy.
Yeah, I guess that's a really, really tough question, but an amazing one to ask. And I'm sorry that my answer isn't as appropriate as I wish it was.
I might also add, if that question is related to your career, like if you're wanting to move somewhere else for your career, I left Ireland because I thought it was too small and there was nothing happening here, and I wanted to get away. And I went to America for 2 years and then London for 5. Yeah. And I moved back. Like, all I wanted after that time was to go home. And not because I, didn't love where I lived and have amazing experiences in other places, but I was like, I fucking love where I'm from. And I love the country.
I moved to Chicago for 2 years, and the same thing. I fucking loved being in Chicago. It made me look at life in a completely different way. I wrote music I would have never written in London while I was living in Chicago. I used that music when I came back to London, when I came back home.
Yeah. So all life experience, and you can bring that back.
Hugely important part of the process of being a songwriter. Yeah.
Okay, I'll leave it there. Sorry, Lassie's just looking at me, being like, wrap it up.
Okay.
It's all good. Thank you so much, like both of you. But yeah, obviously, especially Jack, for joining ICMP tonight. That was wonderful.
Thank you. I loved it. I really, really, really enjoyed it. And I hope that I end it just to end it very quickly. I know that a lot of what I was saying in the last half was pretty doom and gloomy. And I'm very aware I can talk like that sometimes. I'm only talking like that because I think it's important you guys understand the reality of a situation that is at hand, but we have a power to change it. That's ultimately what the goal is here. You want to be a part of an industry that is absolutely broken. Let's fucking fix it. Like, let's fucking fix it. You're the generation that are going to help to do that. It's not on your shoulders, but we do need your help. like come and fix it with us. It's gonna be fucking sick. It's gonna be amazing. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter and shit.
I was literally about to say that. It's literally just your name on Instagram, isn't it?
Yeah, it's literally just at Jack Garratt. Tell all your friends that I was really inspirational and that your lives have changed because of me. Also, this is my dog. Everyone say hi to Wendy.
I have mine here beside me as well. She's just come over last minute.
Yeah. They know.
Jack, that was amazing, and it was so nice to have that conversation with you.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. It was my honor. What a privilege. What a lovely thing to be able to do. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, and have a good evening, everyone. And thanks for tuning in to everyone who joined us. Great.
Thanks, guys.
Don't forget to smash that subscribe button.